Q&A topic, blank searches. We're going to be talking about blank searches. Blank searches are, just trying to work out which button to press. Blank searches are, at master's level, an option that we may have in the interior, exterior, or the vehicles element. There will always be at least one hide in your containers search at master's level, but a search in interior, exterior, or vehicles may be a blank search, which means that there's no hides there. So effectively you ask your dog to go and find hides that are not there. And I think that's part of the thing that we have to think about, just change our mindset on what we do when we ask our dogs to go and find it or search or whatever it is that we, the cue that we use. Because basically, we're really asking them, or we're getting them to clear an area to tell us how many hides there are out there. So I think you'll see that it's not as scary as you might think it is, as you sort of look forward to having to teach it and think about it at master's level, but it actually can be very beneficial, extremely beneficial, to enter, introduce into your training at an early level. Okay, so up until now, or up until master's level, the dog has always had at least one hide to find in a trial situation. So that doesn't mean, I want you to really think about this, that in training there's got to be situations where you have put hides out and asked your dog to go find them and they've not been able to. Now, I'm not talking about dogs that are lacking in motivation. That's a different problem. But we will be in a situation every now and again where we set up hides that, because of our inexperience and lack of knowledge of the way that the environment moves and affects odor movement, we might not realise that we have created a situation where it's actually impossible for the dog to follow odorants, the molecular bits that are in the air, back to source odour. And I know that several of you, at least, who will be listening to this, had a situation at an ACSW trial several years ago, I think, where there was a hide under a windowsill and it was accessible to the dogs in the beginning of the search, but once the sun moved and got onto that side of the building, the heat on the side of the building actually created an updraft of air which pulled the odour up and out of reach of many of the dogs. So, you know, we've always got to be humble in the face of odour. As like I said last time, we don't know what we can't perceive it. So we are part of the learning of scent work as we go along and teach our dogs, is the learning that we have about how odour moves and what creates an easy search or a more difficult search. And on any given day, you might put a hide in exactly the same place, even at your home. And depending on the environmental factors, it might go from being easy to impossible. So it's the nature of the beast in scent work. So it can seem unfair to us, I think, at first, and I think this is a lot of the problem that we have. Definitely once exactly the same as you guys who were thinking about doing this for the first time, I was like, holy hell, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to be able to do that. How do I do that? My God, that's just so much control I have to give up to my dog, and such a deep level of understanding. So I've been there too, but the more I've experienced it, the more I've realised that it's not true. And I think a lot of it is the psychology and the way that we think about it that is going to help us move through this new challenge. I want you to think about the fact that dogs experience searching for something and not being successful all the time. And I'm not talking about search formal training situations. I'm talking about just in daily life. Even you're going for a walk, you've got a dog on a long line, they smell a rabbit, where a rabbit's been, and they're not going to get the opportunity, for the most part, to follow that odour and get the rabbit. So you know they are very used to this. The issue comes for us when we start to think about it and think too much about it and realize, my God, you know, we're going to have to call clear when the dog's found nothing. And you know, how will we know if the dog's really, if there's no odors or there's no hides in there, or if the dog's just missed odor or whatever. So it's really going to come back. I know a lot of people say trust your dog in scent work, but it's not about that at all. Every dog can do it. You've got to trust your training. You've got to really trust that you've trained your dog to understand the job at task. They can do it. There's no problem there. But if you haven't trained them effectively, then you might be coming up to some new challenges and some new learning experiences yourself. So just understand that dogs, it's no big deal to them. It's no big deal for them to go after something that they've smelt and want to investigate more, and it's not accessible to them. So in our searches, in our formal search training and experience, there's always going to be blank areas within a search that are void of odor. 99% of the time, you know. So in a novice search in an interior, we're going to put the odor out for you, and there are going to be pockets of air that have no odor molecules in them, and that's a blank area. So dogs move in and out of odor all of the time. So one of the things that is going to really help you move forward with confidence in training and introducing blank searches into your training. Hey, I'm desperate. It's like, get this done so I can watch Beauty and the Beast. That's seriously what's going through my head. Can you believe that? Seriously, that is what's going through my head. I'm missing out on Beauty and the Geek. Seriously, that's just so embarrassing to mention. Anyway, dogs experience these all the time, and they are learning experiences for us to learn their body language and their communication, and when they are in and when they are out of odor. This is a close-up of a Q-tip, if you can't tell, that's on a little bit of cardboard stuck into a tiny bit where the mortar has come out, if that's what you call it, in between the bricks at my home. And I'm going to press play, and you're going to see the video come back. Can you see the arrow up there? I'm going to tell Sparrow to find it. I'm really close here. So he knows that my body position is telling him it's towards this area. So it's a very small, it's probably like no more than 2 meters by 2 meters that I'm telling him to search in, just by the way I've positioned him. And he's looking in all these nooks and crannies, but he's not in odor yet. This is a dog that's not in odor until there. He hits odor and he follows it right back to source. Still pinpointing, bang. His little ears go back, expecting to hear the rustle of my bag. So understand that is valuable learning for you for your blank searches. What does my dog look like when they are not in odor? We often talk about changes of behaviour, and COBs are really important. You've got to know your dog's COBs, and we talk about them and think about them in terms of when the dog hits odour. But here's the thing. Where odour isn't is just as important to the dog as understanding where odour is. If they're going to follow odorants to its source, then they need to be able to differentiate between where odour is and where odour isn't. It's like you're driving along the street and you stay on the road because, in part, you know where the road ends, the side of the road, and where the shoulder starts, or where the grass starts, or where the curb starts. It's exactly the same. So start to think about that as being just as important for you to understand and to watch them as they move through the world. You don't need to set up a search and stick a birch or an anise or whatever hide out there and watch them be either in or out of odour. Dogs are odour demons. They're living in odour. And so when you go on a walk without any thought of your scent work training, or if you're a nerd like me, then you'd be thinking about it, but you watch your dog. When are they just walking along without a care in the world? And when do they suddenly go, I need to investigate that telegraph pole? It's just hit odour. It's just hit odour. You know, now it might be a situation where your dogs in your area know that there is one particular telegraph pole that is like P Central. So through past experience, they just naturally go there. But just watch your dogs, observe your dogs. Every time you are with your dog and they're not under total obedience control, they are sniffing out the environment. Oh, bloody hell. I don't know what happened your end. Hopefully there'll be no glitch and you'll be wondering what I'm talking about, because I'll edit it together nicely. But you get the drift. Watch your dogs, and watch them work odour and live in odour. When there's nothing valuable for them to investigate, to follow through and investigate, and when there is something. And you will see immense changes of behaviour. And what you're looking for, obviously, is when they come out of odour as well. So in a blank search, your dog's going to come around and circle an area and find nothing interesting there. And that body language is the key to understanding when to call clear. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. So it's two sides of the same coin. Understanding what your dog looks like in odour when it's searching, when it's got odorants and it's following it to something that it wants to investigate more and is meaningful to it, and when it's not. I showed this video the other night. It was a bit sketchy though, but it was such a great thing to get on camera. It's Quinn and Fly in a horse arena. It's lunchtime at one of my workshops from a couple of years ago, I think. And before I went and got them out of the car, I just chucked a birch hide out. I have not cued them. I have not said go find it or search or anything formal like that. This is an exercise that I do. If I'm on a bushwalk or in a situation like this, they'd never searched in a horse arena before, so I was very happy to use the arena and all of its strange background odour to give them an opportunity to find target odour in amongst all of that new smell. And would they be able to? Would they be interested when there was horse shit to eat and roll in and all that kind of stuff? But it was just fortuitous that I was able to get both of them working odour and obviously following an odour. It's not really a plume, but the odour stream, you know, where the odour is and where the odour isn't at the same time. And it's really cool. So they've just picked it up. They're with me because I've probably got food on me, and they're both in odour right now. Now when they turn, and you can see that Quinn and they're basically going the same way, but there's variance in the way that they're behaving, and that's because odour's not stable, right? You know, we don't know if Fly then got the odour and it took off somewhere else. It doesn't mean that Quinn's the better dog. It could have just been the luckier dog, you know. And there it is. I come in and over comes Fly. It's like, shit, I missed out. What is it? So yeah, understand that is that being able to, oh look, I've got it again here. Can we watch it again? Oh no. I just have my little thing there. Oh, we can watch it again. So these twists and turns, it's not only where odour is that's telling them when to turn and when not to turn and when to go straight. It's where odour isn't as well. Think about it like a road. You follow the road because the road goes that way, but also it's the curb and the edges that take you that way as well. You know just how to stay on the road because you know what the road isn't. Of course, I just love looking Fly. He's off on some scenic journey. So it's not as scary as you think, because in any search there's going to be blank areas. Dog experiences them all the time, okay? All the time, whether it's a food search, whether it's a birch, whether it's a cypress search. If they know their job is to go and find odour, then they know the first thing that they have to do in order to find source is to find the odorants, those little bits of odour that have clinged on to the molecules in the air that are going to be the yellow brick road for them back to source. As I've said, they rely on where the odour isn't just as much as they rely on where the odour is. So you've got to start to build that, if you haven't already, into your repertoire, to understanding what their body language and what their movements are telling you about odour movement. And you need to be able to read when your dog is out of odour just as well as you can read when they are in odour. And I think up till now, you're probably like, okay, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. Definitely, I hope that I've heightened your focus to these parts of scent work. But what I want you to start to do is I want you to start to specifically set up searches for your learning. We set up searches for our dog's learning. What's our dog's up to? Has he done high hides? Has he done low hides? Should we do 2 odours? Should we do 1 odour? Blah, 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 blah. You've got to remember that scent work is a team sport. If you just set up an easy search for, or an easy hide, let's say it like that, so it's really accessible. Once he gets in an area, he's going to hit odour really well and really quickly and move to it. But you might start him way far back, which is something that I don't normally do. I think if you watch my videos of my dogs, you see how quickly I get them into odour, and I'm working on that end of the chain bit that I spoke about, and that I'll record hopefully for you tomorrow or the next day. So there's times really valuable when it's like, and I think I've got some videos coming up where I'm going to set my dogs up so that they don't even, like I did with in the horse arena, they don't know that there's odour out there. I haven't cued them to go and find it. What I want to see is that if they come across odorants, do they follow it back? Are they motivated? Is it meaningful enough for them to follow to source? Now, the thing is, if Quinn and Sparrow if Quinn and Fly went through some odorants and just went, yeah, nah, I don't not want to follow that, it's probably going to be really hard for me to tell. But again, this is where it comes back to, if it is incredibly valuable, I will at least see, if you've created so much value in that odour that it means chicken dinners for the rest of their lives kind of thing, you will see them at least go, oh, there's birch. I can't be bothered. You'll see a decision. You'll see a perception and a decision. But if you don't see a perception, then you can probably guess that they just didn't hit any odour. It's no big deal. It's like, just think about it. You go to a concert, pre-COVID, and you're at Billy Joel or whatever the person is, Pink or whatever. And I'm on Facebook the next day going, I was at the Pink concert. It was really awesome. And then my friend my best friend who I didn't know was going, says, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't talk to me. You didn't come and find me. I was there too. It's like, well, how the hell did I bloody know you were there? There were millions of people there. That's an overstatement. But like, if I don't see you, you can't get angry at me for not coming and saying hello. So, and you can't get worried about it. You can't think, well, we're obviously not friends now. So don't get worried if you set up a hide and your dog goes, I can't find anything out here. It might just be that they can't perceive it. Okay, so I think I've gone on off a tangent, as is my want. But basically, remember that part of this training is your learning. It's not just about the dog's learning. The more stuff you set up so your dog can be easily successful, and you think, I just want to see what happens when. I just want to see what they do if it's 2 hours old, if it's an hour old, if I run them straight away, if it's 5 Q-tips, if it's 1 Q-tip, if it's 3 million drops of odour, or if it's just infused, like all of this stuff. Okay, I exaggerate, but you know what I mean. So set up searches for your learning. I can't emphasize that enough. Now, this is a video that goes slow motion, which I didn't mean it to do. But basically, here's the thing. We were down at Pennant Hills Park, and I've set up several single hides around the place, right? Now, Quinn, I'm walking Quinn, yes, off lead, up to one that's in the toilet block up here. And he has, just before I started play on the camera, he's gotten a whiff of odour and he's off. He's off. So it would be a good, 20 metres away that he's gone, shit, odour, don't need you to tell me anything, Mum, I'm off. Now, unfortunately, it goes to slow motion, but you'll see what happens. He goes up, he goes, hang on, it's in here. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, how did he bloody get hold of that? And yeah, it's slow motion. It's really unfortunate. Walker. He heads in there. I'm trying to bloody get up with my camera. He's like, are you coming? I can see a little hesitancy there. Are you coming, Mum? And he goes, oh, fuck you. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear. Birch is calling. So there's my oda obedience over mum obedience. Luckily enough, I just get to the corner and I see him. He's gone past it. It's just in a black tin or a black bit of thing. So he's gone past it. Now you watch. He hits edge of odour. So there's his what we call a negative response that tells us he's gone out of odour, and he knows that that's the edge of it. He's come back. He now knows it's high. It was September. I think it was actually February. So see, he's gone up. It's been there for a good couple of hours. So it's all over the spot. He wets his nose, whether that's anticipation of the food or he just needs a bit more moisture on his nose. He goes, hang on a minute, it's around here somewhere. Now he's slowing down and pinpointing, and he'll get it in a second. But what I'm saying to you with this is that there's no cue there. The odour was perceived by him. Probably it's gone out this door, and down, because that's another entrance around there. So he still hasn't pinpointed. He's narrowing down, and he goes, hey, presto, right here, wench, give me the food. Right now, you're gonna throw it or you're gonna give it to me. You're not consistent, so I don't know what I'm doing. Quinn's probably my most beautiful guinea pig. He's taught me a lot about this. So there you go, just in a little cellophane there. So understand that being out of odour is just as important as being in odour. So how do we start training for blanks? How do we train ourselves? How do we train our dogs? And I'm going to say to you, start introducing the concept as early as possible. I'm not saying introduce a blank search early. You kind of am, but you can. The concept of sometimes it's not there is a really valuable thing to introduce really early, and you'll see in a minute how early I've introduced it to Robin. Because the biggest problems, the sticking point and the issues really arise when dogs have a long history of being asked to go find it or search or whatever it happens to be, and always being successful. Then their assumption, their prediction is that they always find something. So now when they don't, they can believe that they've missed it, that there's always something here, so obviously I can't find it. There's never nothing here. So you want to introduce the concept of, sometimes you'll come in and you'll go for a little searchy search expecting to find something and it won't be there. So when you do that right from the beginning, it's just part of the game, no biggie deal. But the problem is when we go on and we're loving our searching and let's face it, we love to reinforce our dogs, right? So it feels weird it feels really awful actually, when we say, go find it and there's no hides out, or even when, and we'll talk about this in the next exciting episode, when they are asked to go find it, we know there's hides out there and they haven't been successful. We do all manner of stupidity just to try and give them a bit of food, which is just so stupid. And I'll talk about that later. So it's getting off on a track. So the biggest problem comes all of this time, 2 years, 5 years, 2 months, every time we've said to them, go find it, they're successful, then suddenly we learn that there's blank searches and we just throw them into a blank search without any planning. That's where things are going to just not work well for us and everything's going to unravel. Okay, so here is young Robin. I think he was about 9 weeks old. And this is lid training. So this is still, it's a visual. And look, there is no lid there. And he goes, there's no lid there, Mum, look up. Now I've thrown a bit of food away for him. And I put my lid down. He comes in. He's like, where is that thing? Here it is. Sit. Boom, there it is. Look at the lid. Boom, there it is. Fantastic. That's very good. Excellent. You just keep staying there no matter what I'm doing. That's good. I take it away. Food stops. Oh, hey. So he gets up. See the clarity that we've got there already? Yep, it's not odour. Doesn't matter. It's a stimulus. So again, now it's not there. So he's like, where's that lid gone? Where's that lid gone? And what we want to see is in the absence of the stimulus, in this case, my gorgeous little lid, that we do not see an attempt at an alert behaviour. He's off getting a bit of food, I think, so he'll come in, he'll perceive the cue. There it is, great, that's what brings the stuff. And you can see the clarity in him at this point in time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect and we're not perfect anymore. I've messed this up a little bit, but it doesn't matter because I can go back and fix it. But this is what we're aiming for, whether it's a visual cue or an olfactory cue. In absence of the cue, the behaviour is not worth performing. And that's what we want to see. So I know that there's nice clarity there. So no lid equals no behaviour equals no reinforcement. If there's lid, that equals behaviour and that reinforcement will come. So here he is again. Hey, lady, where do you take my lid? Has I seen it anywhere? Yeah, shit, Mum. And you can see already I'm starting to realise without any training, in absence of the lid, he orientates back to me. That's great information. And you can see again the clarity and the understanding. Bang, when that lid's there, at that point in time, his bum would go straight down and he'd face it because I hadn't had time to mess it up yet. Because I'm just like you guys. I'm just like you. I just understand why I stuff up when things go wrong, what I've done a bit more. It's not that I don't do it. It's just that I go, oh, here's what you've done, for better or for worse. Okay, so this was actually just a couple of days ago. And I'm just going to say to you that, so it's not the lid anymore. It's just this is actually a training article for tracking. No big deal. It's the same kind of shit to him as long as it's got my odour on it. So I just want to say this is a shoe rack that I picked up at a council pickup, which I just love. And this is something that I can teach. Robin understands is what I will call an antecedent, or it's an environmental cue that we are doing some specific work or learning something different. He will learn new odours on this. So that picture is a cue that tells him to focus in on this, and any novel odour here will be probably worth alerting on, and so on and so forth. It's really great. You'll see it featured in a lot of my stuff. Okay, there's my little nice entry thing. So this is alert behaviour training. Just to bring you up to speed, because I know this is hard to understand. When Robin, oh fuck, can I stop this? Yeah, I can. When Robin finds source odour, the goal is for him to pinpoint source. NOS, that just means nose on source, because nose on source means that he's gotten as close to as possible, and it's just it might not be nose on source, but when the hides are accessible, I want to see him nose on source. Then I'm going to get his head pulled back and freeze and then sit. So I want you to start to, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth in some of the earlier videos on alert behaviour with those questions, but I don't want you to think of an alert behaviour as one thing. I want you to think of it as, when you find source odour, what do I want you to do straight away? Then how do I want you to tell me that it's there? And if I am a moron and the worst handler in the world, then I want you to sit. So that's the way I'm playing the game. So my main reinforcement at the moment is pinpointing nose on source, nose on source. So that's why you'll see in this video, and if you've watched some of the others, he has a bit of trouble sitting at the moment because there's not much reinforcement history there. But that's fine. I can clean that up later, because the most important thing for him overall is for him to pinpoint source. If I paid the sit a lot, I would probably get him sitting maybe before he pinpoints source. So I might start to get him to understand that fringing is okay, or that he doesn't have to get as close to it as I want him to. So that's all just where I put my reinforcement history. But that's what we're working on in this video. So remember, the searching is not important in this session. I'm looking for the behavior. What did I say there? Sorry, guys. Where did it go? I'm looking for one of those behaviors, and that's where I'm going to focus and pay. Am I going to put weight of reinforcement on the nose on source? Am I going to put weight of reinforcement on the tiny pullback of the head? Am I going to put reinforcement on the sit? And I would tell you right here, right now, as of, what is it, the 12th of July, 2021, he is, I need to start to pull back from nose on source because he's starting to mouth the article or the bit of Kong. So that tells me that I've put too much emphasis there. I need to start to reinforce pulling back just a little bit. And that's the fine tuning of it. Okay, so he's going to come in a minute, I think. So I'm focusing on blah, blah, blah. Oh, and that's for me delivering reinforcement well. So here's my handy. Yep, that's what I'm just telling you. So he's got a high rate of success. So if this is in the environment, this dog is going to come in and check that out first, because he has found lots of value in searching that. So where my hides have been, that's where my reinforcement history is. That means that's where the dog will have a lot of just natural, we call it default, in searching. Just telling you what I told you before. I cue the sit. I go, good boy, you're a good boy. I take it away. I say, go. I decide, decisions, Peter Clark. Here's rep 2. He comes in, he goes, there it is. Nice, nose on source. I say, sit. So I'm starting to link nose on source and sit. As long as the cue is there, stay there and pinpoint again. I take it away. I throw the food away. Now I think he's going to come in now. Yep. So here's your blank search. And he's like, what the hell, man? And he starts to go, okay, it's not there. Let me go over and see if it's elsewhere. So I say, great, good boy, throw the food away. Come back. He says, it wasn't there before. Where else might it be? Oh, sugar. So let's put it back again. There was a slight bit of his bum going down there. God love him. Now this was great. He turned his focus away, and I do have to work on this a lot more. But I took the food straight away. I took the article straight away, because the article is, or the source, odor, whatever you're getting them to find, is all about the reason that the food comes. See his little bum start to go down into the sit again, so I can see that that's starting to do its work. Now I'm not after every time he finds something now having a sit in it. It's more important to me that I get him out and about. Where's it gone, Mum? Where's it gone? It is. Mummy. Good boy. It's more important for me, that I get him out and about and searching in lots of different environments. I can polish it up later. Remember, a cue is an alert behavior is only a behavior that you need to be able to read. Doesn't need to be bigger than Ben-Hur, doesn't need to be this polished straight sit. I'm just training this because I want to train it, because I've not done it before. But realistically, every bit of information I need is on that tiny bit of freeze. So here's another blank search. So he's like, where the hell she put it now? He's doing a lot of searching around the shoe rack because that's where there's lots of reinforcement history. He turns around to me and says, Mum, is it there? Now, this is where he starts to go, you see how he's thinking about, oh, should I alert here or should I not? So that was a really good bit of information to me. Okay, this is good for you because you need to remember, you need more strength that it's about the article. Nothing good happens when you do your alert. Yay, there's your automatic sit. And you could see that I chucked food at the back of his head. Great training session. So remember, dogs are always working out of odour as well as in. So I know this is hard. I know you hate watching yourselves. I know you all a blah, blah, blah. I know sometimes it can get bloody annoying as you get the right tripod and stuff. But please, if you are really, really, really interested in doing well in scent work and using it as a tool to understand your dog better and give your dog such an amazing opportunity for outlets for natural canine behaviour, video your sessions, video them and watch them back. It is incredible what you see in a video that you do not see in a session. And I will tell you, more often than not, if I think a session is shit, or I'm beating myself up about something, I watch the session and I go, my God, it wasn't that bad. Oh my God, look at that. That was amazing. Like there's so much that we're doing in the moment. So to be able to look back on it is fantastic. And by videoing your dog working areas where there's a lot of no odor, that gives you something to look at to go, okay, this dog is looking for odor, but it's not finding nothing. What does that look like? And eventually, what does it look like when it really sort of goes, you know what, I don't think there's anything here. Like, whoa, what a concept. But the first step is when there is a hide there, start to video so you can see what you're looking for when you do get to an all clear round, a blank search. And this is the area, so you'll remember this, those of you who were there the other night. This is my this is my scent work behaviour chain, complete with Boxer. It's right from the beginning to the end. And it's this search for odour. So we cue the dog, go find it, and more often than not, the dog has to do some searching before it finds an odorant. It's that odorant that it's going to use to follow back to source, right? But in this part, there's no odour. The dog's not in odour. The dog's looking for odour. You're at the Billy Joel concert and you're looking for your friend. You haven't found them yet, okay? Good old Billy Joel, showing my age. This is a video of Fly. I've just sent him out there on a very blustery day. I do a lot of this. He's come back to me because he thought I'd put a bit of food down. He's like, man, there's odour over here now. This is a great example of in and out of odour. And that was him saying, yes, Mum, I found it. I don't know what I bloody did then. I don't know why I didn't move in. Maybe I'm working on calling him away. Sometimes I do weird shit like that. Like I said, they're guinea pigs. So, yep, there he's got it again. This is a different video to what I thought. But these kind of situations, a blustery day on an oval, and you tell your dog to go find it, is so cool to watch them busily work it, because that wind will chop it around like nobody's business. Now, the thing about an open area and a lot of wind is that there's lots of odour around, but it's really broken. So you think about the way to think about odour moving in the air is to think about water moving in a river. You're going to have different layers moving at different speeds. Some of it will be hitting rocks. Some of it will be bouncing back and forward, blah, blah, blah. And so there's going to be, if you put a leaf in there, you're going to see the leaf move around very, very randomly and very sporadically. Is that the right word? And it's that kind of thing that you want to think about when you think about odour on a blustery day. Now, there's not just one leaf, there's millions of them. those little odorants in the air, but the dog might get hold of an odorant chain or a plume and follow it for a bit, and it might lead to nowhere. But then he'll turn around and he'll pick up another one. So it's a great way to see your dog in and out of odor, in and out of odor, in and out of odor, and watching their behavior. Okay, so the important thing, training for blanks. How the hell do you bloody do it? The first thing I want you to think about is keep the blank searches short at first. Please, please, please don't talk them into alerting, because you will. You will. Do not push them. At first it's like in and out, in and out. And this is even a valuable thing to do when you've got hides out there. I hope that all of you are putting time limits on your searches. If you want to compete and compete seriously, you shouldn't just be chucking odors out there and off you go and go find them. You should be putting the pressure on yourself. This is a 2-minute search. This is a 2-minute search. I've got to get this dog around this area in 2 minutes. How am I going to do it? Because that's part of the picture. It's not just you following your dog around, remember. It's a what do I call it? It's a team sport. I call it the royal eye. What do we call it? A team sport. As the experience grows with just being asked to go and find something, there's nothing there, add in some crappy handling. Because when you get to, I know, right? And again, I do this all the time. I teach my dogs I'm a crappy handler. I try and be my best handler, but I know in a trial situation, I'm going to be nervous. And nervous equals not thinking equals crappy handling. So if I can teach my dog that I'm a moron, and no matter what I do, it's the odor that is important. I'm going to be at Masters one day with you all, and I'm going to be like, holy shit, we're going for a title. And I'm going to have no idea, just like you all, whether there's 0 hides or 3 hides in there. And my dog's going to be working for 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm going to think, holy shit, I think this is a clear run. I think it's clear. And I'm going to be just like you are. Far out. I think I'm going to call clear. Oh my God. Like, we're all in this together, right? So that nervousness is going to induce crappy handling. So I want to train my dog to deal with crappy handling now. I want him to understand that if I'm in a situation where I'm saying, can you just check over at this corner here again? Or can you check this wheel arch again? The fact that I'm asking them to focus on that wheel arch does not mean that there's odor there. Does not mean that they should alert there. If there's odor there, they should alert there. That's the only thing that they should alert on. So I think it's really, really valuable. Now, understand that when they're doing blanks initially, and you can either go, okay, I understand this, and that's how my dog will work, so I can take that information and go with it, or you can modify it to something else if you want to. But usually, a dog that understands what the game is, when they hit a blank area, they will either come back and stand and look at you and go, and they'll wag their tail and they'll go, oh, I'm really not sure what you're talking about. There's just nothing here. You know that, right? And God love them for that. They'll come back, and if they don't sort of stand and look at you like you're the saddest thing in the world, they might start to offer operant behaviours. So if they've been free-shaped, or if they do other disciplines, it's very highly likely that they will start to offer you something that has a high rate of reinforcement as well. Okay, so that might be a clear indication for you that the dog's like, there's no odor out here, there's no cues out here that I can find to perform the alert behaviour, so I'll start throwing other behaviours at you that I know have paid in the past. And oftentimes they attempt to expand the search area. So just like you might remember on that shoe rack, there was little Robin going, okay, it's not on the shoe rack, I'll look elsewhere. That's exactly what I mean. It should be here, but it's not. So it's obviously I need to look further afield to find the odour, to follow the odour back to source. So in our trialling situation, that can mean they're going to, in an exterior, they'll try and move out of the search area. or vehicles, or they're going to, in interiors, oftentimes they will go and do their run, they'll do their sweep, they'll look around everywhere, and they will start to reduce in intensity and speed, and then they will go and stand by the door and go, you know what, there's nothing here, we need to go outside if you really want to find something, because there ain't nothing in here. So that's just 3 ways that's really common for dogs to behave when they're presented for the first couple of times with a blank search. So one of my favourite ways, this is just, I think, the most sensible way to do it. Like you've seen, I offer my dogs opportunities for blank searches, the concept of, well, there's no odour here, in very tight exercises like with the shoe rack, so they can get the understanding that, oh, sometimes it's not here. You idiot, you forgot to put it out. But then as we start more formally, where I want to go from go find it, you move around and the dog comes back and however they tell me with their body language says there's nothing here. I like to do it this way. So I have 2 areas. Rooms are great because as much as you possibly can, you want to do this stuff off lead. So you can stand back and watch them properly, and so you don't interfere, because the more connected you are, and obviously the leash connects us to them, then the more likely they're going to go, okay, well, you know, maybe I'll just alert here or whatever. So 2 rooms, set up the hide. I've said here 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter, but just give it a bit of time, because you want that odour to disperse, especially the first time. You want it to disperse in the room, so that as soon as that dog enters the hot room where the odour is, it is a vast contrast to your blank. So the important thing is with your blank room, just be aware, make sure that you haven't had odour in there for maybe the past week or 2. Give it a good airing. Just really make sure that there's no nooks and crannies, or that there's no odour in there, because you want the initial, especially that first opportunity, for it to be a nice stark contrast to the dog. So when you're ready, you're going to open the door to the blank room, you're going to send them in, you go find it. They're going to do their thing. I like to just stand in the doorway. Just stand in the doorway and watch them work, let them work, and watch what they do. What are they doing? Do they look back at you more than normal? Do they like sneeze? Do they shake off? Sometimes you'll get those sorts of behaviours that are understood to be like stress-reducing behaviours. Whew, trying to shake off the focus, and let me just have another look at that again. So all of those things, and it's going to be different for each dog. So that's about you knowing your dog. Oftentimes in a situation like this, because you've got one room very close to another, they will be able to smell the odour that's coming from the hot room in the blank room. So it's really common in this sort of setup where a dog will go, you're a moron, they will move past you and you let them out, and they'll go and they'll stand in front of this door here. And you're just going to open it up and let them in, tell them to go find it, and off they go. So that's the way that I really love the first couple of formal blank searches to be run. And then it's just a matter of putting some distance or some time in between the blank and the odour. You know, you do a blank and you go and play a game, and then you go and do an odour room that you walk, they're not as close, you know, all of those variables. You know how to move behaviour and increase behaviour and grow it. So that's a great way to start. I really love it. It's nice and clear. Now, if your dog false alerts, my take, and this is not just with blank searches, if I've got a situation and my dog really false alerts, not just goes, oh, I'll just do this behaviour here because you want something, but I'm thinking, you really think there's something there, I'll show you a video in a minute. I will actually go in and I will explore the area with them. Like, you sure? You sure there's something here? I'm not going to pay them, I'm not going to feed them or anything like that, but I'm going to respect their decision, because this is a team, like, they're going to make mistakes. The last thing I want to do is have my dog go, I'm sure it's here. And even though I know he's wrong, he's saying, I'm sure it's here. And then I ignore him. As far as I'm concerned, that's not conducive to a good relationship. If I had a friend like that and I was saying, we were looking for your keys, and I'm like, they're in your handbag. Look, they're here. Look, I can see them. They're here. And you're like, no, I looked there. I'll be like, they're frickin' in your handbag, you moron. Like, I can see them. Jingle, jingle. Can't you hear them? And you were still like, no, I'm not paying attention to you. That would really piss me off when you'd ask me to find your frickin' keys. So I always respect a decision that they've made. Always. I know, and that's probably really different from other people that have told you just to ignore it. It's like, I just can't stand that. My focus is always on, ribbons are lovely. I like blue ones. But it's that relationship that just makes me just so thrilled to see and to experience myself when you get that amazing relationship, working relationship with a dog. So, blah, 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 show you that in a minute. And then if they false alert, then you're going to give them the opportunity to be successful in a nice, easy way, because that's the contrast that teaches. This was wrong, this didn't get any food, or this didn't get my toy, or whatever the reward is, and this is right. Okay, I get it. Okay? It just is clarifying to the dogs to do that. Okay, so here we go. This is actually Quinn, wrong thing, false alerting on, press play. A box in a minute, so he comes up, he goes, hey, this is really interesting. Now this is an alert for him. I'm like, what the? And I think Megan's can't hear the sound, she's saying no. So I've come in and gone, really? Do you think so? He's gone, yeah. Oh, silly me. Shit, sorry about that. Okay, keep working. So it's no biggie deal. I've just helped him understand that he's actually wrong. Like, no one's perfect, not even a chihuahua. And he goes, hang on a minute, this one's it. This one's it. Yeah, there's the diffie. Okay, so that's just my preference when it comes to false alerties. Okay, and I think we're coming up to the end of it. You'll be glad to know a couple more slides. But just one thing on understanding odor movement. I tell you, once you get up to master's levels, you better bloody be wanting to know and in love with the science of odor movement, because it will help you tenfold in understanding whether or not your dog could potentially be missing a hide or is definitely cleared the area. So this is actually, when I hit the right thing, a video that it's just a screen recording from an app called Wind Tunnel. So that green thing there is odor. I've put an odor there. You've got the wind coming from the left of the screen over to the right, and then I've put another odor there. So out on the building here, and then one in a little cranny in here. Now you can see straight away that unless the dog is going to go in and search in this area, he ain't going to be picking odor up. So you've got to teach them to make sure they look in all of these nooks and crannies. But just your understanding of air movement, and this is a very simplistic view, obviously, because we've got the wind just coming from one direction. But I left this running for 20 minutes, and this green odor never left the building, and it's not being trapped by this other odor up here, this purple one. That's just there so you can visualize it. It's not trapped at all. It's just simply because the air is moving so fast along this way that it's not coiling in and being able to pick up the odor that's in this corner. So you need to know these things, because if you're at a master's level and you're running a search and you're thinking, I think this dog's not showing any interest, you want to make sure that your dog's got its nose in all those nooks and crannies, because it might not be blank. It might just be a very nasty judge that has set up a very difficult search. Or it might be a judge that set it up and the wind changed. Like, welcome to nose work or scent work or whatever we call it, right? So just understand that. So the last thing is that you need to understand that blank searches are a freaking brilliant tool for analysing what your dog really understands. The complexity of what we're asking them to do and what they can, it's not complex what we're asking them to do. It's not at all. But in teaching them what is valuable, the odorant, that the target odor, what is not important, the way we move, the way we stand, because we are pattern orientated and we consistently will do the same things in the same situation. So that means that the way that we stand and the way that we move and the way that we are just before our dog hits odor and calls alert can very easily become the predominant and the most salient cue for the dog. I've worked with dogs that were false alerting because their handler held their breath, their handler hunched their shoulders. Tiny nuances that the dog learned were the most important stimuli to be getting reinforcement. So this is a whole new world. It really, really is. You're in a perceptual reality that you have no ability to perceive olfaction. So you have to be very, very careful of really understanding what your dog is picking up. So when you do a blank search, if you've got a dog that starts to offer you an alert behavior, that really is awesome to tell you that you need to clarify to the dog that it's the odor that is important, not the operant behavior. You know, it's really difficult when we're teaching these alert behaviors because we focus on behavior. And so if we are too quick to get in there and reinforce behavior and the dog hasn't perceived source odor, then we're not allowing the dog to learn about source odor. We're just reinforcing behavior. So it's really valuable when you start to put a dog into a search that has no odor out there and you start to see alerts being offered. You know, okay, great. That gives me information I need to clear up my the dog's understanding of odor. Another thing I see pretty consistently, not consistently, a lot of, and this is especially true in your working dogs, your high-strung border collies, your kelpies. You're in a situation where you go find it and you're starting to introduce blanks and the dog starts to get stressy. That panty, oh my God, quickening of pace. You might see saliva, you might see the eyes start to open up and the head muscles start to tense up, the whole body start to tense up. And that's really a great example of a situation where you probably have trained your dog, unbeknownst, that when it's asked to go search, it can predict a number of things. It might be all or it might be only some of these. So things like if you've set up your hides or if the same person sets up your hides and searches, we all have patterns. We all have behavioural patterns. So one instructor, if you go to class, is going to be have preferences for certain hides. Another instructor is going to have preferences for other hides. You might, if you are a busy person and you don't get a chance to do much training outside of class, your dog might understand that we do searches in this environment only. So understanding that lots of different settings and situations to search in are important. The other thing is, do you consciously vary the time your dog searches? If you look back over your records, because I know you all keep them, you will be amazed at the consistency, the average of time that your dog spends searching. Because again, we are animals and we are patterned in our behaviour. We consistently will see our dogs. Before I started to really focus on this, my dogs will consistently work for 4.5 minutes. And it was like, whoa, so if I then, and that can become a rut. So then when I set up a search where they have to work for longer than that, then it might become really stressful. So you want to ping pong and bounce all over the place. And obviously these are all things that I'm telling you to do when all of the foundations are in place. I'm just really bringing light to the fact and bringing self-awareness to us that we cannot help but be patterned and consistent in the way that we set up hides and set up searches, which is why, as I said to Carol, a great thing to have is a random app generator. I use it a lot with tracking. So if I'm doing a track for Robin, I'm going to go to my random generator and it's going to tell me, if I'm just doing one leg, how many articles am I going to put on that leg. And I can set it up so that it can tell me anywhere from 1 to 99, but usually it's 1 to 5. So sometimes he'll do it and there'll be 1. Sometimes he'll do it and there'll be 5. And I know that if I didn't have that random generator app, he'd probably be used to finding 3 or 4 articles on a leg. Important stuff. So especially these dogs that are bred to work with us and are the ones who like rules and like things to be the same, and they learn things very quickly. But by God, if you step outside of what they've learnt, it can really upset them. So look back at your training overall, but also if you're starting to introduce the blank searches to them, look at reducing the length of time that they're looking for something that isn't there. I'm thinking 20 to 30 seconds. In you go, you couldn't find it? No worries, that's good. Let's go into this room and have a look. Okay, great. And bang, there's their reinforcer. Okay, so lastly, some common questions. Should I reinforce them for not finding anything? My question exactly, and a really sensible question, because my God, doesn't it feel shitty to ask our dogs to go and do something and have them actually be successful, there's nothing there to find, and then not reinforce them. And unfortunately, we have to really think about how confusing that might be. So if I say to you, go find it, and they go out there and there's no odour, if I then say, oh, well, you did a good job, here's a bit of food, I could so easily teach a dog that when it gets a little bit hard, just come back, and I'll pay you for nothing. You know, it's no biggie deal. So remember the value of training for animals, for our dogs, from a mental point of view, from a therapeutic point of view, from a confidence building point of view, is all about clarity. If we are in a situation where confusing things, no one likes to be in a learning situation or a working situation where the rules keep changing. And I'm sure you can all think of bosses that you've had where that's basically been the case. So remember that. So I say no, you reinforce, or you allow them to earn reinforcement through offering them a search that does have an odour in it pretty soon after your blank search, which helps them clarify what it is that they're looking for. And it allows the blank search to be reinforced by the opportunity to earn reinforcement on the next search. Should I teach them a behaviour that is cued by no odour here? So what we're talking about there is we've got an alert behaviour. Here is odour. I sit my bum on the ground when there's odour. I tell my dog now to go find it. He does his sweep. He looks and he says, nope, there's no odour here, rather than just let him come back and stand by me or go to the door or whatever it happens to be. Some people will actively teach a behaviour that tells them that the dog has perceived no odour. So a behaviour like maybe come and put your right foot on my left foot or something like that. Come and stand between my legs, or something that's very different from anything else, because that's the rub. So this is something that it does make a lot of sense. It really does. And I think for a good trainer and a good dog, And we're all good trainers and we're all good dogs, but I think this is where we really have to look at and be honest with our ability and our dog's ability and our dedication to it, because this is incredibly, to be done well and properly, this has to be very, very systematic, and it has to be very, very clear. There will be lots of steps involved, and initially you're not going to introduce this on odour or in a search. You are going to teach them the concept of what is known as the two-choice paradigm. So you can actually look that up. If you're interested in going down this way, I will urge you to go and look up in the scientific literature on behaviour analysis or psychology, a two-choice paradigm, which is basically the odour is present, you do this, the odour is not present, you do that. But it would be introduced at a very, very controlled way, not in a search, not with odour. It would be basically going back to, and I haven't really even thought about this, but you will be looking at something like, is the red lid there or is the red lid not? So instead of Robin coming in and just looking for it and starting to look further afield, he would come in and he would say, the red lid is not on that table. And I would teach him to do something specific that says that. But it would be that, the concept would be taught at that level before you ever moved it into something to do with odour and a search type situation, because it's very, very high level. It's not high level cognition for the dogs. I don't think that. I think it's frickin' high level training. You want to be I'm toying with it with Robin because I'm an ass, and because I just like to train things that I've not trained before. But I really have got a lot of research and a lot of thinking to do before I even start to think about it. Bloody blah blah. And when we are cueing a behaviour through the absence of a stimulus, we need to be very clear about our training sessions, which is what I've said. And the dog, you need to know that the dog understands the stimulus. And so let's go back to the red lid and equals sit, and the absence of the red. You're not going to move on to the absence of the red lid means do this behaviour until you've got nailed down in every type of scenario and situation that you can think is going to be wanted in, the fact that the red lid odour means that this behaviour happens. But boy, we could have some fun with that. And this for me is the only time a reinforcer, like a food reinforcer, primary reinforcer, should be delivered for finding nothing, when the dog has learned a specific behaviour to give in the absence of odour. Pretty cool stuff. It really would be cool to do. Okay, that's the end of blank searches. I can't believe I talked for an hour and a frickin' quarter on blank searches. I was so sure I'd get in and finish this in half an hour. Anyway, I'll upload this and send it off to you.